Once again, I have come. Once again, live from the wastelands of the internet. It is I, the Nomad, bringing you the news. And yes, this time I made sure that we are really streaming. The stream has started, and I have gotten everything right after my boomer moment with Batman, who then made fun of me all weekend long. Deservedly so. Deservedly so. Uh, just one of those things in life that we all have to deal with. It is just how things work out in the end. But that's okay. That's all right. Things happen, but I'm here this week. Next week, maybe not. There's a lot going on next week. And in fact, on Monday, I have to fly to Hotlanta. All right, for a class to do a class, and so we'll see how all that works out. Yes, it's going to be quite an interesting week. Um, but let's get started, shall we? Trump officials say U.S. paused intelligence sharing with the Ukraine, but signal it may not last long after a fiery meeting. Make sure your pilot is an old one. The Trump administration appears to have ordered at least a partial halt to crucial intelligence that the United States shares with the Ukraine to defend against the Russian invasion, according to U.S. military official and public remarks made by top Trump administration officials. Statements from the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and CIA Director John Ratcliffe on Wednesday morning indicated that a pause in intelligence sharing is in place, but the extent of the limitations was not clear. Both officials suggested that the pause may be short-lived if the president can be satisfied that Ukraine has taken steps towards negotiations to end the war. A controversial effort that appeared to be derailed after Friday's fiery Oval Office meeting between President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Okay. This is the end of the Ukraine, if this continues. I'm not joking. This is the end of the Ukraine. This is not a joke anymore. The one massive advantage, we talk about the weapons that we've given and the material that we've given to the Ukraine, blah, 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 and all that's important. But all of that pales in comparison to the intelligence we've been sending them. Especially the battlefield intelligence. And here's an example of it. The very next story. Russian strikes on Ukraine kill 20 as U.S. cuts intelligence sharing with Kiev. Without U.S. satellite imagery, Ukraine's ability to strike inside Russia and defend itself from bombardment is significantly diminished. Russian strikes on Ukraine have killed at least 20 people, officials said Saturday, as heavy aerial attacks continued into the second night following a U.S. decision to stop sharing satellite images with the Ukraine. The decision to withhold intelligence and cut military aid came on the heels of a tempestuous White House visit last week by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Without U.S. satellite imagery, Ukraine's ability to strike inside Russia and defend itself from bombardment is significantly diminished. It's not just that. Okay? It isn't just that. At least 11 people were killed in multiple strikes on a town in Ukraine's embattled Donetsk region late Friday, Regional Governor Vladimir Flaskin said. The attack damaged 8 apartment blocks in the town of Dobrylia, all right? which is close to the front where the Russian troops have been making steady advances. Ukraine's state emergency service said a Russian drone damaged a Ukrainian fire truck while rescuers fought to extinguish the burning buildings. Another 6 people were killed in the frontline towns of Pokrovsk, and I'm not going to try and butcher the rest of those names, while the emergency service reported that 3 others died when a Russian drone hit a civilian workshop in the northeastern Kharkiv region. Flashkin declared Saturday a day of mourning in the region and warned that more victims could still be found in the rubble. Zelensky claimed that at least 5 children are among the injured in Dobrylia. Last night, the Russian army fired 2 ballistic missiles at the center of Dobrylia. After the emergency services arrived at the scene, they launched another strike, deliberately targeting rescuers. It is vile, inhumane intimidation tactic which the Russians often resort. Okay. And the guy has no humility, which isn't surprising when you know what cocaine does to a person. I don't know if it's cocaine. I will say this, right? He was puffed up by traitors within the United States. The Democrats, traitorous Democrats within the United States, basically told Zelensky, "Oh, you be tough on him. You be tough on Trump. All right. That way we can get a better deal. That way you can get a better deal. We'll support you in a better deal. Don't worry about it." Zelensky, I guarantee, went in there thinking he had all the cards to play because he thinks that the Democrats, all right, are in his hands. That the Democrats will play his tune. That he can play them off against the president and get his way in Congress. And he believes that, quite frankly, because they have in the past. He's been able to go in there, act like a freaking turd, was able to act like a turd to Biden. And I think the reason he acted like a turd to Biden and Biden didn't do anything is because Biden was out of his mind. Biden didn't even remember it the next day. You could treat Biden with disdain, and 20 minutes later, he wouldn't even remember who you were. Zelensky got used to dealing with the fact that the president didn't control things. He got used to dealing with the fact that, these photo ops, I'm not talking to the person who really is in charge of America. It's those Democrats, those Democrat politicians. And they've all got my back. Funny how that turned out, didn't it? But without U.S. intelligence showing what the Russians are actually up to, showing where the Russians are getting ready to deploy, where they're getting ready to strike, where their buildup is. Without U.S. intelligence showing them that, the Ukrainians are blind. If the U.S. does not sit up there and reprovide intelligence to the Ukraine, which, quite frankly, no one is including in the cost of what we've given to them, no one's included any of that. When I say that we're the only ones keeping them alive, I'm not joking. They should get nothing. It could have been Zelensky, but I think that I don't doubt that it may have been Hunter either. But the Europeans, they're not serious. Well, most of the Europeans aren't serious about this situation. Here, let me give an example of something here, of what seriousness looks like. Poland announces military training plan for all men. Work is underway to make all men in Poland undergo military training, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said. In a speech to the Polish parliament, Tusk said the government aimed to give full details in the coming months. Efforts are being made to prepare large-scale military training for every adult male in Poland, he told Smenj. All right, I don't know how to pronounce that name, so I apologize if I butchered it. We will try to have a model ready by the end of this year so that every adult male in Poland is trained in the event of war, so that this reserve is comparable and adequate to potential threats. Now, why is he doing that? Because he is taking his defense and the defense of Poland seriously. He understands that the Russians, after they get done with the Ukrainians, and they're going to get done with the Ukrainians, all right, decide to come after Poland next, they're screwed. Tusk said that the Ukrainian army has 800,000 soldiers, whilst Russia has around 1.3 million, and he wants to increase the size of the Polish army, to including reservists, to 500,000 from the 200,000 now. We're talking about the need to have an army of 500,000 in Poland, including reservists. It seems that if we're going to organize things wisely, and I'm talking constantly with the Minister of Defense, we will have to use several courses of action. That means the reservists, but also intensive training to make those who do not go into the army's fully fledged and competent soldiers during combat. Tusk said women may also undergo military training, but war is still a greater extent the domain of men. The Prime Minister said his government was also carefully examining France's proposal to include Europe in its nuclear umbrella. I don't think he'll go after Poland, but I could be wrong. The problem with going after Poland is all you're doing is increasing your front. There's no reason to do that, which is what would end up being the issue. All right, but the biggest issue here with all of this is Zelensky isn't serious about peace. Okay, he thinks he's got the full support of everyone else, and I think this idea that the Ukrainians have 800,000 men, all right, in the military, I think that that's a joke. I think it's a joke. If they had 800,000 men, they should be able to do certain things. Because the 1.3 million for Russia is not completely in the Ukraine. So if they had 800,000 men, they technically have more manpower at the point of attack. Theoretically, they should be able to easily push the Russians back. But they don't. This is pie in the sky freaking attitude. They were able to beat the Russians back initially with massive U.S. support. And there was some support from the Europeans. Now, the British have been giving them weapon support and certain other things. But the reality is the main reason that they were able to move aggressively like they were has to do with the fact that we were giving them intelligence. We were showing them where the Russians were weak, where they were strong, so that the Russians were forced to spread their forces. They couldn't leave an area just temporarily weak while they exploited a weakness that they discovered in the Ukrainian forces. Now, without the U.S. being there to say, "Hey, this sector is being left open," they're running into problems.
No, they're not.
No, you're not.
No, they're not.
Oh, they're not? They're not running into problems?
Oh, I'm just being argumentative. Don't mind me. The worst thing is our government is giving the arseholes, the Zelensky's lot money that he should be giving us.
I tend to agree.
If you understand what I mean.
I do. I do. I assume that you hold on here a second, folks, because now that I have a co-host here to try to rein me in, which in this case is a we'll see how well that works.
Rein you in. I'm trying to wind you up.
Oh, well, you're not doing a very good job.
I've just started.
That's true.
I mean, I noticed you actually went live today.
Yes. I remembered, but I will also admit that Matt Markley also reminded me as well. So everyone's reminded me.
Hello, Matthew.
Yes, but I was I was on live and on time and going forward. I mean, it is what it is. So, but no, Zelensky, without the U.S. intelligence, the Ukrainians fall.
Zelensky's just a bloody, he's an ethot. He's a male ethot. That's all he is. It's a porn actor, for crying out loud.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a porn actor. I really don't care. I don't care if he's a cocaine addict at all. I don't give a shit about him in any way, shape, or form. I will say this: if you want to come in here and spit on the United States, which is what he did, right? Like a lot of freaking Democrats constantly do. Okay, don't get me wrong. We have a lot of Democrats that love spitting on this country. But you want to come over here from over there, and I'll tell you right now, the Democrats thought that they could play that whole thing up. They wound up Zelensky to do what he did, and when Zelensky did it, they immediately went to support him, including that traitor, like I said, good old frickin' Mark Kelly. No, Kelly.
Oh, right, not Keir Starmer then.
not Keir Starmer, but Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly from my state. And it's like, you going to spit on America too and blame America for the fact that this asshole who should be coming here and saying, look, can you help us out, and begging for help, comes in here and says, he doesn't beg for help. He says, you're going to give me the help whether you like it or not. And everybody saw it.
That's a great way to not get help.
All right. But he knew that it was okay to do that because he knew that senators like Mark Kelly would spit on America too, and they would take an enemy's, and they are an enemy in my opinion, an enemy of the United States side, because Zelensky is not a friend of the United States. He is an enemy of the United States.
Zelensky's not even a friend of the Ukraine. He's a friend of Zelensky.
That's a very good point, actually.
I mean, he's quite happy to send young Ukrainian men out to die rather than sit around a negotiation table and sort shit out.
Well, I've said this.
Perfectly happy to do that.
I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Okay, there are certain things that are required in order to be a nation. And like it or not, one of those primary things is the ability to defend your borders. He has no defensible borders. All right, he's as close to defensible borders as he's going to get right now because of the Donetsk River.
Yeah, he's as close to defensible borders as a small country declaring war on the United States would be if it was like dab smack in the geographical center of the United States.
Yes, and so I look, you can talk about this all the time, but the Ukraine, the way it was drawn, doesn't meet the requirements of a nationhood. It doesn't, and it's being demonstrated.
Yeah, I think even the adjoining countries, which were part of the former Soviet Union, are on Russia's side, aren't they?
They're not necessarily on Russia's side, but they're not on the Ukrainian side either. All right, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So
Ah,
let's I assume that you can see the screen, Batman.
yep. Matt says he's going to end up with nothing. He's probably going to end up with a bullet in his head.
Well, that's true. It's something. U.S. economic worries mount as Trump implements tariffs, cuts workforce, and freezes spending. With his fury of tariffs, government layoffs, and spending freezes, there are growing worries that President Donald Trump may be doing more harm the U.S. economy than to try to fix it.
He's
The,
cutting the fat off it.
the labor market remains healthy with a 4.1 unemployment rate and 151,000 jobs added in February. And Trump likes to point to investment commitments by Apple and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company to show that he's delivering results. But Friday's unemployment report also found that the number of people stuck working part-time because of economic circumstances jumped by 460,000 last month. In the leisure and hospitality sectors that reflect consumers having extra money to spend, 16,000 jobs were lost. The federal government reduced its payroll by 10,000 in a potential harbinger of the alarm being sounded by the stock market. Consumer confidence and other measures of the economy is or where the economy is headed. Okay, first of all, hey James, I don't think that the U.S. economy is really in good shape right now. Okay, I do think that some of these tariffs will have a negative effect. Okay, especially
short term, yes.
for in the short term. If you say short term for like the next 2 years, I think in the short
Yeah.
term, yes. In the next 2 years, it's going to have a negative effect. The positive effects are somewhat going to counteract that of reducing regulation, all right, within the United States to make a lot of that stuff less expensive, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be a counterbalance. It's not. Eventually it will shake out correctly, but it's not a long term fix, and it's not a long term fix because it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and the problem with economies is you can't have long-term fixes because economies, no matter how stable or how well managed, they're always in fluctuation.
Well, yes, that's true. All right. But you can add pressure to one side or the other. Okay, let's be honest. And one of the things that has happened to the United States is we have overinflated our economy due to the printing of money. That's been a reality.
Not just that, but the entire Western world now operates on an economy based on debt.
Well, that's also true.
Yeah, especially people with reasonable paying jobs have been convinced, and in my opinion, conned into getting out the likes of credit cards and going into debt.
We are a debtor economy right now, and it's going to take a lot to get us off of that. You are correct.
Oh, I think it's impossible at the moment.
No, it's possible. It's just going to be painful.
I said at the moment.
I mean, so it's going to take a while, but the tariffs are going to have the effect that we want. Look, we have to readdress the unfair trading situation with Canada and Mexico. Period. We have to
I know
address
you're going
that.
to send your armies north and south.
Well, we're probably going to send our army south. Of that, I have very little doubt. There's no reason to send them to the snow Mexicans. Okay, nobody wants the snow Mexicans. Not even we do not even want the snow Mexicans. The Canadians are a bunch of freaking smug.
It's worse
assheads.
than that. The real reason America won't invade Canada is because America knows that Canada has genetically modified super soldier polar bears wielding miniguns as hand weapons.
Yeah, I don't think so. We're not afraid.
Yeah,
we are not afraid of the Grand Canadian Forces. I'll be honest with you.
You should be. Those polar bears are very good. They've been trained by the SAS.
Yeah, the polar bears were trained by the SAS. I don't think so. And even then, the SAS has limitations, just like all special forces units
Yeah, it has limitations, like it keeps running out of enemies.
do. Not quite. Not quite. Right. So, but one of the things that's been pointed out is we've been hacking jobs in America, and they're going to get, and there's more coming. The federal government is slashing the workforce. That is something that's been necessary to happen for a long freaking time because it's the only way to redress the size of the federal government. It has to be redressed. What Biden did to prop up his economy was he set up there and, for example, boosted the IRS by 80,000 people. People forget this. He boosted the IRS workforce by 80,000. We've only cut a few thousand, starting with 5,000 right now. It's going to get far more than that. It's going to have to. And yet, even with all these cuts that have been happening, the thousands and thousands of cuts that have been happening in the federal government and the trickle effect downward, we still added 151,000 jobs. But guess what? Those were private sector jobs. Oh, but they're only part-time. That's the way it starts. It's going to take a while. It's the way it is. Meanwhile, terrorism in America spikes. Anger at Elon Musk turns violent with Molotov cocktails and gunfire at Tesla lots. A woman in a black hoodie walked onto a Tesla car lot, prepared to inflict damage. She came with 4 Smirnoff ice bottles filled with gasoline, flung them at electric cars parked around the dealership, and watched as they burned. Over the course of 13 days, starting on January 29th, according to court records, Lucy Grace Nelson had made repeated trips to Tesla lot in Loveland, Colorado. Once she spray painted Nazi in black under the dealership's entrance sign. According to the court documents, another time she ignited a Molotov cocktail near a Tesla Cybertruck. She also allegedly used red spray paint to scribble a message on the car's dealership's entrance door saying F Musk. Nelson's lawyer declined comment on the case. This woman should be charged as a terrorist. Since President Donald Trump's inauguration, more than a dozen violent or destructive acts have been directed at Tesla facilities, according to court documents, surveillance photographs, police records, and local media reports reviewed by the Washington Compost. The incidents come as Elon Musk has rocketed to prominence as Trump's best-known backer and as a conservative provocateur in his own right. Okay, Musk isn't a conservative.
Musk is a Muscovite.
Okay.
He's in it for the betterment of Elon Musk.
Yes. Well, okay. I don't think that Musk is as selfish as that statement portrays. Okay. I do think that there are things that he's doing all right for himself in a certain sense. I don't think that he is a hardcore or even close to being a true conservative. Mm-hmm. I do think that he's somebody who is anti-waste. Right? And he is going through because he understands what waste is. But one thing that he's dealing with right now is the amount of fraud in our government and the amount of money, amount of taxpayer money that's being spent as slush funds for the Democrats, which is why the Democrats are squealing like pigs.
Are you trying to tell me that politicians are fraudulent and dishonest?
Democrat politicians are, for sure. I'm not saying Republicans are a whole lot better, but they're not as bad as the Democrats because the Democrats were allowed to get away with it. Okay? For years and decades, they've been allowed to get away with it because the press was so in bed with them. The mainstream media was so in bed with them. Okay? Alejandro Mayorkas made a statement. Right? This guy was the guy who screwed up the the border, okay, under the Biden administration. He said his only regret was that they weren't media savvy enough. He just recently said that. And of course, where's he at now? He's at Harvard, one of the Ivy Leagues of American college. This guy is a lying sack of shit, and Harvard had absolutely no problem hiring this stupid son of a bitch to be one of their freaking professor emeritus. That's what we got? This is supposed to be the best of the best, and you're going to sit up there and hire a guy who flat out made things worse, lied repeatedly to the American people, and you're going to say, hey, this is someone we want on our campus? Now, Trump has started, right, to take action against these assholes. For one thing, he just jerked $400 million away from Columbia University because of their inability to rein in their Hamas terrorists. So you take $400 million from a university and see how much squealing begins. When you cut off the spigot, the pigs will squeal. You want to find out who's on the slush fund? This is why all the Democrats are squealing. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying this. You're saying that all politicians are what do you call it, corrupt and suspect, and I don't disagree with you per se. But when you start turning off the spigots, and the only ones screaming are the Democrats, that should tell you something. You still here, FB?
Hmm?
Oh, okay. You just let me go
Sorry,
on my rant.
Yeah. Well, I was enjoying it.
Oh, you were enjoying it. So much for reining me in. You're the one who's supposed to be keeping me on an even keel.
No, I'm not.
Let's go on to a completely different story.
I'm the one who's supposed to watch you run until the chain round your neck nearly strangles you. Yeah, like the dog on Foghorn Leghorn.
It's nice to see some of those cartoons being played again on national television. By the way, back to this.
They cut all the violence out of them like they did in the 80s.
Not quite.
That was an idiotic move.
It was.
Yeah, kids watch cartoons and see that the consequence-free violence in cartoons and think that happens in real life. No, they don't. Even I can distinctly remember 4-year-old watching Bugs Bunny and knowing you couldn't do that sort of thing in real life because you'd hurt somebody.
Yeah, and you'd get hurt. A privately built.
I mean, even at an early age, the vast majority of children do have a pretty firm grasp on what is real and what isn't real.
Yeah, that's true. A privately built spacecraft has successfully landed on the moon. The robotic lander, dubbed Blue Ghost, touched down on the lunar surface early Sunday. It's a feat that only one other private company has ever accomplished. A privately built...
NASA.
NASA's not a private company.
You're right. It was because the only other privately owned spaceship which touched down on the moon was the Hollywood mission there for Stanley Kubrick to film the lunar scene for 2001.
A privately built spacecraft has successfully landed on the moon. All right, a feat that only one other company has accomplished in spaceflight history. The robotic lander, dubbed Blue Ghost, has been in orbit around the moon for roughly 2 weeks, preparing for its daring descent. Daring?
Hey, that's an idea.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're on about Elon Musk. We're on about space travel now. We've been on about Zelensky. Can't we put Zelensky in Elon Musk's space Tesla?
It's a good question. The Texas-based company Firefly Aerospace developed the spacecraft. Right, the spacecraft touched down at about 3:36 a.m. Eastern Time with the control room erupting in cheers, along with a crowd gathered for the landing event outside the Firefly headquarters in Austin. Blue
This is
Ghost.
something I've been suspecting for a long time.
What?
Space isn't going to be the preserve of the military.
No,
like
you're
so
correct.
many early science fiction writers would have had us believe. It's going to be the preserve of private enterprise and big business.
If profit can be made, yes. Okay.
Profit could be made.
I suspect you're correct, but the if's still there at this point.
Yeah, it won't just open up new resources; it'll open up new industries.
It will.
I mean, there's things you can manufacture in a free fall environment, basic and zero G, that you can't manufacture on a planet.
Actually, it's not just things in zero G. It's the fact that you don't have. You could do things in perfect vacuum. All right, which also allows
it's
a
not
number
a
of
vacuum. There's no such thing. But
well, yeah. A much closer version of perfect vacuum.
Yeah.
All right, you're correct. I'm not going to disagree with you per se. All right, but from our perspective, near perfect atmosphere, vacuum.
Yeah, you're still going to die in it.
Yeah, that's true. All right. In the February of 2024, another Texas-based company, Intuitive Machines, made history when its Odysseus lander pulled off a nail-biting touchdown near the moon's south pole. Firefly Aerospace's landing is the first in a flurry of robotic missions to the moon in 2025. Earlier this week, Intuitive Machines launched its second lander into space, with the targeted moon landing on or around March 6th. The lander and the tiny rover, developed by a Japanese company, InSpace, launched to the moon on the same rocket as Blue Ghost, are taking a longer, less energy-intensive path and are expected to arrive in late May or early June. Blue Ghost aims to touch down in a 350-mile wide basin on the near side of the moon, the side that always faces the Earth. The region is thought to be the site of an ancient asteroid impact, according to NASA. We will be talking about the Japanese little craft in a little bit later. How many people saw this story? Former illegal immigrant aide to AOC self-deports to Colombia amid questions about employment. So, good old frickin' AOC is hiring illegal immigrants. An illegal immigrant who once served as an aide to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all right, Democrat, New York, has reportedly self-deported to Colombia, praising the freedom of movement in the South American nation after working in Congress despite being in the country illegally. Diego de la Vega was born in Ecuador and immigrated to the United States as a 7-year-old in 2001 on a visitor's visa that he overstayed, Migrant Insider reported. The news raises thorny questions about his employment status for the Queens-based congresswoman. The piece of shit. It's bittersweet. I hadn't left the country in 23 years, from the age of 7 to the age of 30, De La Vega told the Migrant Insider. Now I can't go back to the United States. It feels like exile. Tough shit. You shouldn't have been here in this country illegally, sitting on our dime, decade after decade. This guy has done nothing but been a parasite, all right, on the American economy. But see, he was working. He was working for AOC, so he was working for the government.
I wish we could find out Keir Starmer was an illegal immigrant. That would be wonderful. It would explain so much as well.
It feels surreal not to be illegalized anymore. I don't have to live in the shadows or constantly worry about paperwork, he added. That freedom of movement is incredibly satisfying. Good! You could have had that how many years ago? De Vega became politically active after the failure of the DREAM Act in 2012 when the legislation fell through 5 votes short in the Senate. After working...
She is not an attractive woman. I don't care what anybody says.
No, she's a stablemate of several other people. After working for an immigrant rights group, he served as the communication director for Robert Rodriguez, a then member of the New York State Assembly, who serves as the president and CEO of the New York State Dormitory Authority, according to his LinkedIn page. In 2021, De Vega was hired by Ocasio-Cortez's re-election campaign and eventually became her deputy communications director. Diego is amazing. We love him. We love illegal aliens that we don't have to pay.
I've got to ask, which AOC hired him? Was it the AOC who's alive now, or the one that got killed on January the 6th?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know which one it was. Now you know the real reason why she's been doing all this illegal horse shit. In fact, one of the things that I would be doing right now is, if I was Tom Homan, I'd be walking up to her going, "Okay, let me see the records of when you hired this guy and whether or not you followed the law, because I guarantee they didn't."
Of course, didn't.
All right, I guarantee they didn't.
The law is only for the likes of us, which, at least in this country, at one time, even the nobility, hell, even the king or queen themselves was subject to the law, just as any common person was. But that's no longer the case anywhere in the West.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. Let's get on to the next story.
Yay!
From the Daily Mail. 3 states face enormous electricity bill hikes as Canada refuses to stand down on Trump tariff wars. Good. Residents in 3 U.S. states are set to see their electricity bills soar as Canada insists it will maintain its tariff hikes amid new threats by President Donald Trump. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said that he will still place a 25% tariff on electricity sent from Canada to the United States, and hikes beginning on Monday. Huh?
See, you can't blame them.
All right,
they're fighting back with what they've got.
Yes, and who are they hitting? Michigan, New York, and Minnesota.
Oh dear, what a pity! I don't care.
Well, I think you need to understand this. First of all, Michigan really is a blue state. As much as I wish it was purple, all right, for the most part, it's a blue state. Now, they've been taking it in the shorts because of the Democrat policies for a long time. Yeah, and finally, some of the neighbors are starting to say, hey, we got to start voting for a different president. But they still vote for Democrats in droves, okay? In droves.
I know New York is so blue, it's practically black.
Well, exactly. So, Matt Barkley, unfortunately, your electricity rates may be going up because New York is going to get hit with this. Now, it won't be all of New York, okay? But it will be significant portions of New York, and they're going to start screaming. And then Minnesota, oh well. Minnesota is so blue, they're completely out of control. And it's about time that people understood this. This wouldn't be
Minnesota nasty.
This wouldn't be a disaster. This wouldn't be a problem, all right, if the United States was allowed to build power plants in these freaking Democrat-controlled cities or states. But you see, you can't get that.
They are. They are. You can have as many wind turbines and solar farms as you want in those states.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said that without even sounding a bit sarcastic.
Canadians love America. No, you don't. You spit on America. You've always spit on America. You're a bunch of smug
Canadians.
assholes.
No, hold on. Canadians love America, not the Canadian government. There's a difference.
No, there's not. I've met too many Canadians. They're all smug assholes. All of them.
That's what's often said about Americans. It might just be something to do with your continent.
Maybe. All right. Maybe we've been infected by the snow Mexicans. I don't know.
No, I think it's some kind of curse the Indians put on you.
Perhaps.
The feather Indians, not the dot Indians.
The feather Indian. Florida woman, 51, arrested on domestic watermelon battery charge.
Oh, she beat up a watermelon.
Oh, a Florida woman has been charged
Now,
with domestic.
hold on. Is this a fruit or is it a racial slur?
Let's read. A Florida woman has been charged with domestic battery for allegedly throwing a watermelon at her boyfriend, who luckily dodged the airborne fruit. During a
He
verbal
looks like her boyfriend.
during a verbal confrontation on Sunday evening, Shelley Hardwick, 51, allegedly picked up a whole watermelon and threw it in the direction of the victim. The 56-year-old man quickly moved out of the way of the incoming watermelon, the weight of which was not disclosed in an arrest affidavit. Hardwick told cops she threw the watermelon only out of frustration, but denied tossing it in her boy's direction. All right. Upon arrival, at the pair's residence, a motel. This is their residence, is a motel in Dunedin, a Gulf Coast city. Cops noticed there was watermelon seeds on the victim's face and clothing. If he dodged it, why does he have watermelon seeds on the victim's face and clothing? What am I missing here? Because it said he successfully dodged out of the way. Hardwick was arrested for domestic battery and misdemeanor. After spending the night in jail, she was released from custody on her own recognizance. A judge has directed Hardwick, who had pled not guilty, to have no contact with the victim. Additionally, the judge ordered Hardwick to be outfitted with an ankle bracelet to monitor his alcohol consumption. God. Oh, and you're gonna sit up there and throw a watermelon at somebody. First of all, if you're a 56-year-old,
worse.
Well, no, the 56-year-old man. Let's be honest. First of all, that's nothing against anybody. If the woman throws a watermelon at you, are you calling the police? How does I've often wondered this. Well, how does the police get involved in this? Well, yeah,
Catch a fucker and throw it back.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it could have been worse. I mean, she could have had the watermelon in the freezer for a few hours.
Okay, well, once again, it still comes down to the same thing. You could have caught it and threw it back.
Well, no, because if it's frozen, it's going to be slippy. So he's going to catch it and it's still going to smack him in the face.
Yeah, maybe. Depends on the size of the watermelon, to be honest. I mean, some of those watermelons.
I bet it was a big one.
Probably. I mean,
I bet it was a two-hander.
But the question still remains, which is, why were the police called?
We don't know who called the police initially.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Now, I will say this: if you're staying in a motel and that's your residence, I got some questions about the motel. Start trying to call.
This is why I like Matt Barkley. He just sits there making quiet comments in the chat, and then bang.
Okay. Japan's firm's rover mission ends on the moon, gives up surface exploration. The Japanese startup Diamond Company said on Saturday that its ultra-compact lightweight rover, which reached the moon aboard the U.S. lander, will not proceed with its planned lunar exploration, bringing the mission to an end. The Tokyo-based firm's 498-gram rover. So this thing is 1 pound. This is like half a kilo. This is half a kilo, right? This is like a pound, 1.2 pounds. Yaoki, the gram.
It's tiny.
Yeah, the rover called Yaoki, measuring around 14 centimeters in length and 8 centimeters in width and 8 centimeters in height. All right, remain mounted on the U.S. company Intuitive Machines lander Athena. which was declared dead after landing on its side in the early hours of Friday, Japan time.
Yeah, it's not even the size of a half pack of sugar.
Yeah, 14 centimeters is about 5 inches by 5 inches. 5 inch by 5 inch by, say, 8 centimeters height, uh, which is about 3 inches high. So
Yep.
it's almost like a small little cube. All right. Unfortunately, this lander landed on its side. Um, it landed some 250 meters away from its intended landing site, where it was unable to recharge its solar panels because they were oriented away from the sun. Before ceasing operation,
So
Yaoki,
basically, it was the Americans' fault.
yes, Yaoki photographed the crater and the leg of the lander and transmitted the image as well as temperature data to Earth. All right. The company confirmed the rover's wheels were still functional. It's unfortunate that they couldn't have got this thing out, but it wouldn't have
Yeah.
mattered anyway. The problem was is that the lander itself couldn't charge itself, and any of the data that the little machine would be sending back would be going to the lander first and then uploaded from the lander, and
Yep.
obviously it couldn't do that. So that's why they declared the mission an end to the mission. But they're setting up another one. You gotta give them credit for persistence. Right? They're gonna send another one. Meanwhile, South Korean president released as prosecution decides not to appeal. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol was released Saturday as the prosecution decided not to appeal against the court's release approval. Yoon
I
got
wonder how
off
much money they got.
Jung got off a black vehicle and walked out of the Seoul Detention Center in Wang, all right, about 20 kilometers south of Seoul, waving hands and bowing to his supporters who were standing along the road, the TV footage showed. After arriving at the presidential residence in central Seoul, the impeached leader got off the vehicle again to shake hands with his supporters. Yoon said in a statement that he appreciated the court's determination, the people's support despite cold weather, and the leadership of the People's Power Party, of the ruling People Power Party. Seoul Central District Court approved the release of the arrested president on Friday, accepting Yoon's request to cancel his detention that was made by his legal team on February 4th. Yoon was apprehended in the presidential office on January 15th and was indicted under detention on January 26th as a suspected ringleader of an insurrection,
Or
becoming
as they would call it, a ling reader.
Okay, enough. All right, becoming the country's first sitting president to be arrested and prosecuted. The prosecutors brought the accusation against Yoon at 6:52 p.m. local time on January 26th, but the Seoul Central District Court said Yoon's arrest period expired at 9:07 a.m. local time the same day. The prosecution's special investigative unit in charge of Yoon's insurrection case sought to appeal against the court's Friday's ruling, but the country's prosecutor general ordered the unit to follow the court's decision, according to local media outlets. The motion to impeach Yoon was passed in the General Assembly on December 14th, and since then, the Constitutional Court has held 11 hearings on Yoon's impeachment, with its final verdict widely expected to be delivered next week. It's Japanese.
Yeah, Matt, 5'9", you're almost twice the size of your average Jap.
So basically, this guy is still the president of South Korea.
Yeah, and we think we've got corrupt politicians.
You know, I mean,
Southeast Asia, they could give our politicians lessons.
Yeah, it's.
Actually, they probably do.
I think that the situations from the society is quite a bit different. You can see that there's a lot of police presence here, right?
Yeah,
And you can also see that for once in a foreign country, you see an American flag flying.
that's when you were on holiday, wasn't it?
No, that was not I do find it interesting, however. I do find this thing interesting. Meanwhile, one Newark police officer killed and another fighting for their life after a shootout with a 14-year-old.
Right, you've gone silent.
I have.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what you were saying there.
One New York police officer killed and another fighting for their life after a shootout with a 14-year-old. Can you hear that now?
Yeah.
Okay. One New York police
Does
officer.
that say that this?
Go ahead.
Does that say that the 14-year-old was unusually skilled, or the police officers were poorly trained,
I don't
or a
know.
bit of both?
All right. Well, it depends on exactly what happened. I mean, it could be that the police officers were just minding their own business when this kid tried to execute them, and he caught them by surprise.
Mm.
All right. Shots rang out around 9:30 p.m. near a White Castle at McDonald's, where the teen was hanging out with friends, according to Essex County's prosecutor's office. All right. The young gunman allegedly fired a total of 29 shots at the officers. That means he either had multiple guns, an extended magazine, or something. Something's a little weird. Both officers were hit in a flurry of bullets and were taken to the University Hospital. The injured officer is in critical condition and fighting for his life. There are conflicting reports about the status of the teen, with PX11 sources saying he was killed, while ABC7 saying he was taken into custody. The suspect was hanging with a large group at the fast food restaurants just before the incident, but it is not clear what led to the shootout. It has been on an incident that took place in Newark earlier tonight, when two officers were shot. Okay, it will be interesting, right, to find out what had
That's a
happened
word
here.
for it.
All right, because I'll try to stay on top of this to find out how this all went down. All right, but a 14-year-old doing something like this makes you wonder exactly what happened here. First of all, the first question, of course, comes into New Jersey, just like New York, is death on guns. How the hell did he get a gun? How did a 14-year-old get a gun?
A lot easier seeing as guns are banned.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Funny how
So,
that works, isn't it?
this law against 14-year-olds having guns didn't work. Okay. Second question is they said that this teen fired 29 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Which leads me to the question of, first of all, what kind of gun was it? Number one, and number two is or was it multiple guns? Because this almost sounds like it was multiple guns. It could just be one with an extended magazine, or it could be one where the teen was allowed to reload, which leads to the next question: why wasn't he shot immediately when he was reloading? I'd also
The
like to
first officer
know.
could have gone down. He could have winged the second officer, then reloaded and finished off the first officer and severely injured the second.
It could be. But the other question is this kid? They seem to know who the kid is. Is he in custody? Is he dead? Did he get shot? What? I'm kind of curious of what's going on with this. Really. Gene Hackman, cause of death revealed. A sheriff says wife died from rare virus linked to rodents a week before he did. Gene Hackman lived with his dead wife's body for a full week before succumbing to complications from heart problems and advanced Alzheimer's disease, officials said Friday as they revealed the heartbreaking details of the legacy of legendary actor's death. His longtime love, Betsy Arakawa, died of hantavirus, a rare flu-like disease linked to rats, likely on February 11th. The New Mexico officials said. The French Connection star, meanwhile, you have to always mention the French Connection with him. French Connection star, meanwhile, is believed to have died 7 days later. The tragic timeline ends the mystery that has surrounded the death of one of America's most beloved actors, who was found with
Yeah.
his wife on February 26 inside their Santa Fe mansion. Arakawa, 65, last left the sprawling estate on February 11th, which was also the last time she sent out any communications, according to the Santa Fe County Sheriff Adine Mendoza. She likely died of the virus that day, the New Mexico Chief Medical Examiner Heather Jarrell said at a highly anticipated news conference on Friday afternoon. Hackman, 95, who had late stage Alzheimer's disease, likely died roughly a week after his wife from hypertensive arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease from and from Alzheimer's.
And from yeah. I mean, if he was in late stage Alzheimer's, he didn't have long to live anyway. It's tragic, though.
Late stage Alzheimer's is horrific. Trust me.
It's just about over at late stage.
Yeah, and
I didn't know he had Alzheimer's as well, either, Matt.
And it's Alzheimer's is horrible, right? And so people who wonder, because I was wondering, okay, how did both these victims die? Believe it or not, as strange as this may sound, it makes sense.
I know this sounds odd, but I'm glad they died the way they did, rather than it being foul play.
Yeah. The medical examiner noted that Hackman was not dehydrated at the time of death. Okay. The actor, however, didn't have any food in his stomach. That's not surprising either. All right.
Alzheimer's, he forgot to eat.
Yeah. Well, they don't feel like eating, and
no, they just absolutely forget to eat.
Well, they even forget to chew. I mean, that sounds bad. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah, you said. I mean, my dad. I mean, I know it's not the same disease, but has the same symptoms. My dad had dementia, and he would forget to eat.
Yeah, my dad went the same way, and it's horrible. He had Alzheimer's. It's horrible. There's nothing you can do. And
yeah, I mean, there was times I had to force my dad's mouth open to get out the penny he was trying to chew.
Oh yeah, I know it's a horrible thing, but at least we know what happened now. All right.
Yeah.
And he was a great actor. Can't argue with that. His wife was devoted to him until, unfortunately, she died, and obviously, her dying ahead of her husband. Her husband may not even have recognized the person on the floor, that there was a person on the floor. That's the sad part. For a week.
Worst thing, you should probably try to talk to
her. I love how the media plays this up. A disruptive effect. How slashing staff at the Social Security Administration is sparking fears the system could collapse. Sparking fears from whom? The press?
The staff who are getting slashed.
Millions of Americans could soon feel the impact of the deep staffing cuts being planned at the Social Security Administration. I know that there's 80,000 that were hired by the Biden administration that could be cut now. Okay? Even if you call those deep cuts, they weren't hired to deliver Social Security checks. They were hired so they could go after people. They were given law enforcement things. Tell me how getting rid of these SOBs is going to it's going to stop the Social Security check. No, it's not. the loss of experienced employees who manage the Social Security's fragile and interdependent web of computer systems is likely to leave the agency vulnerable to technical outages. Yeah. And Twitter was going to absolutely collapse and not be usable within a week or two, right? Am I missing something?
Nope.
These people, the vast majority of them, are overpaid and underworked. Okay? That's the reality. When you have a bunch of, like I said, they just hired 80,000 people, but still couldn't figure out that somebody 150 years old shouldn't be getting a Social Security check.
It's brilliant news.
And yet they keep claiming, oh no, it's not. No, this is needed to happen a long time ago. Okay. Now, are there going to be disruptions at some point? I guarantee there's going to be disruptions at some point because anytime you try to streamline something like this, there's going to be disruptions, at least temporarily. Those things happen. But it's not because they're firing people. It's because they're trying to update a system that is woefully inaccurate, inadequate. Don't be an anti-vampire bigot.
Bureaucracies. That's what it is.
That's right. I'm an anti-vampire bigot. Death to the bloodsuckers.
Yay.
I wonder if that was going to get me in trouble.
Probably.
12 people wounded by 3 men shooting randomly at a Toronto pub customers. Police say. This is a pub? This looks like somebody's house. Doesn't it?
It looks like somebody's house. A rich person's house.
It does! A dozen people were injured at a shooting in the eastern Toronto pub in what police called a reckless act of violence by 3 men who entered the bar and fired randomly without warning. You think that that's a reckless act of violence? I think it's intentional murder. Superintendent Paul McIntyre of the Toronto Police Service said police received numerous emergency calls reporting a shooting at the Piper Arms around 10:40 p.m. A preliminary investigation determined that 3 males entered the pub and began shooting at customers. All right, McIntyre said at a news conference at the scene. There were no immediate arrests. That's not good. 1 male armed with what appears to be an assault rifle and 2 others armed with handguns. As they walked into the pub, they produced their guns and opened fire indiscriminately on people sitting inside. Police arrived at the scene and found 12 people suffering from various injuries. The victims were transported to local hospitals. 6 were confirmed to have gunshot wounds that were not life-threatening. McIntyre said, calling the victims extremely lucky. The remaining 6 victims were hurt by flying and broken glass. The motive was not immediately clear. All right, McIntyre said, calling the shootings a brazen act and reckless act of violence that has really shaken our community and the city itself. Does this or does this not sound like a mob hit?
Obviously not white, Matt. As Matt pointed out earlier, yeah, when they don't mention the victim's ethnicity, they're not white. They're usually deeply suntanned.
I don't know, but this sounds like this sounds like the response to a no given to a shakedown group. You pay us money and we'll keep your pub safe.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah, be awfully bad if somebody in here were to catch fire.
Yeah, I mean, this question, like I said, this sounds like this guy was trying to be, ransacked or intimidated into a shakedown.
Yeah, protection racket.
Right, and that all of a sudden, he said go screw yourselves, right? And they came back and said, okay, well, bad things are going to happen. You know, that's what this sounds like, especially because of the random nature of this, where they were just firing at random. Oh, and by the way, where the hell did they get handguns in Canada? Handguns are banned in Canada.
What?
Handguns.
Connie, what is banned in Canada?
Handguns. Pistols.
Oh, handguns. They're criminals!
But they're banned in Canada. Canada is so much safer than America.
Yeah, they're criminals. Yeah. By definition, they don't follow the law.
Robert swallowed.
That's going to be the most expensive shit in the world.
Robert swallowed $700,000 worth of diamonds.
That's also going to cause a lot of damage down there.
A Texas man posing as a representative of an NBA player stole diamond jewelry worth $700,000 from a Tiffany & Company store, according to cops who arrested the suspect after he swallowed several solitaire earrings. Ah, my goodness. Our investigators allege that Jathan, not trying to butcher the name, Gilder, 32, appeared late last month at a Tiffany store in the Mall of Millennia in Orlando, Florida. Okay, so it is a Florida. I thought this was going to be a Texas thing, but this is a Florida thing. Claiming that he was there to negotiate the purchase on behalf of an unnamed Orlando Magic player, according to the arrest affidavit. Gilder, seen at the right, was escorted to a private viewing room where he was shown a $500,000 diamond ring and two sets of earrings worth $650,000 and $160,000. While discussing the purchase and a wire transfer with Tiffany sales associates, Gilder allegedly jumped out of his seat, grabbed the jewelry, and bolted for the door. He fought with a male employee as he sought to leave the VIP room by violently pushing and pulling the doors open. During the scuffle, the worker succeeded in knocking the diamond ring out of his hand before the suspect gets the doors open enough to escape, running through the Tiffany & Company and around staff attempting to stop him. Using the store and mall surveillance video, a network of public safety cameras, and license plate readers, police identified the 2024 Mitsubishi Highlander as the suspected getaway vehicle. About 6 hours after the February 26th robbery, the rented SUV was pulled over and it was taking the fastest route back to Texas, cops allege.
I often wonder if at the end of slavery in the British Empire, Europe and the United States, if all the slaves, former slaves, were rounded up, given a modest stipend and returned to Africa.
Well, how are you going to spend a modest stipend in Africa?
Not just some of them, but all of them.
Gilder, who was alone in the vehicle, swallowed several items as he was being taken into custody. A subsequent scan revealed Gilder's stomach contained foreign objects that investigators believe to be the purloined jewelry. These foreign objects will need to be collected by the cops after they pass through Gilder's system. A search of the Mitsubishi yielded a host of incriminating evidence, including the clothes worn by the robber and the Tiffany price tags that exactly matched the items taken in the robbery. Additionally, the Tiffany worker who fought with the thief picked Gilder out of a police lineup. Dude, they say go big or go home. Well, he went big. You got to give him credit for that.
I bet he was shitting himself, but using a plastic bag.
While in custody at County Loddock, Gilder reportedly spontaneously asked the jailers, "Am I going to be charged with what's in my stomach?" Duh. I should have thrown them out the window, he said earlier. Dude, you're an idiot. Oh my god. Charged with a pair of felonies, Gilder is being held without bond. All right, he's also subject to dozens of outstanding warrants in Colorado.
I bet there was two officers with their elbow and their rubber gloves accompany him to the toilet every time he goes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they might have gone in easy, but they're going to come out and cause damage.
Because
it's not just gemstones; it's metal.
Yeah,
like I said, earrings,
they were
pins.
Yeah. This is more dangerous to him than he realizes, right? Because it could puncture. If it punctures the large intestine at any point, or puncturing the stomach, I mean, is a problem as well, right?
Peritonitis.
Yeah, but if it punctures the large intestine, sepsis is very possible.
Yeah, he'll got peritonitis as well.
And I mean, the guy.
Not to mention internal bleeding.
The guy's an idiot. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something like this, right? This isn't the way to do it. Seriously. I'm not going to give suggestions on how I would do it. Okay.
Because you don't want your secrets out, do you?
but swallowing them wasn't the best of plans. I'm just going to point that out.
Well, let's face it. Let's face it, Nomad. You're so big, you don't need to swallow them because you probably generate enough under your crust as it is.
Well, I'm trying to lose weight. I've got to start losing weight. I have started doing a little bit of more exercise, but I'm just getting to the point of starting it. So maybe I'll lose weight. Hopefully soon. We'll see.
Before your knees give out.
Basically, yeah. Violent and sudden. What a firing squad execution looks like through my eyes. Jeffrey Collins. I've now watched through glass and bars as 11 men were put to death at the South Carolina prison. None of the previous 10 prepared me for watching the firing squad death of Brad Sigmund, all right, on Friday night. I might now be unique among American U.S. reporters. All right, I've witnessed 3 different methods, 9 lethal injections, and electric chair execution. I can still hear the thunk of the breaker falling 21 years later. As a journalist, you want to ready yourself for an assignment. What assignment? Somebody told you, "Hey, go to the go watch this guy get executed." Really? Dr. Death?
Best form, quickest form of execution, I think, would be, you place a prisoner in the steel tube, right? You lock him in, right? He can't get out, and the executioner throws a switch, and this giant piston just comes down and crushes him, bang, within a second.
All right.
Death by press.
You research a case. You read about the subject. In the 2 weeks since I knew how Sigmund was going to die, I read up on firing squads and the damage that can be done by bullets. Really?
Okay, you're reading and you haven't moved the page.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I've caught up.
Okay. All right. I looked at autopsy photos of the last man shot to death by the state in Utah in 2010. I also pored over the transcript of his trial, including how prosecutors said it took less than 2 minutes for Sigmund to strike his ex-girlfriend's parents 9 times each in the head with a baseball bat, going back and forth between them in different rooms of their Greenville County home in 2001 until they were dead. but you don't know everything when some execution protocols are kept secret, and it's impossible to know what to expect when you've never seen someone shot at close range in front of you. The firing squad is certainly faster and more violent than lethal injection. Dude, what do you
What
think?
about you instead of a rifle, use miniguns?
All right, I mean, about 2 minutes later, they fired. All right, there was no warning or countdown. The abrupt crack of the rifle startled me, and I was startled. All right, and the white target with the red bullseye that had been on his chest, standing out against his black prison jumpsuit, disappeared instantly as Sigmund's whole body flinched. It reminded me of what happened to a prisoner 21 years ago when electricity jolted his body. I tried to keep track, all at once, of the digital clock on the wall to my right, Sigmund to my left, and a small rectangular window where the shooters and the witnesses in front of me. Okay, look, dude, nothing against you, but soldiers go through this, all right,
Mm-hmm.
on the battlefield all the time. Now, it's a good lesson in the sense of life ends quickly. Life can be ended quickly and suddenly. I think the term violent is a misnomer, however. What's more violent about that than getting a lethal injection? How is it more violent?
It's not as violent as electrocution, which takes a while, and the prisoner is jerking and bouncing about all the while.
Well, yeah, that's true too. So, I mean,
And some people could actually have a level of resistance to electricity, so it sometimes lasts even longer.
yeah. Well, they try to lower the body's resistance to electricity, right?
And then you get Max Dillon, who basically you put him in the electric chair and he's going to come after you.
You know, I mean, it's a sad state of
And then
affairs when
Spider-Man.
somebody. It's a sad state of affairs when people have to be executed. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that 100%. But the reality is to say that this is more violent. I just don't see it. I just don't. I just don't see it. To be honest, it should be televised. I do believe in public executions. They should be televised.
I think it should be done in a more sporting way. Yeah. The convicted felon who's about to be executed is given a 5-minute head start, right? And then the executioners are sent out on horseback with hounds
No, I don't.
and hunting rifles.
I don't believe that. Thieves steal over 500 eggs in a breakfast heist after price hikes and limits placed at Costco and Trader Joe's. Security camera footage captures
Yeah,
two people raiding a Seattle, Washington coffee shop on February 5th. Officers were called to the
were
Luna
these
Park
chocolate
Cafe.
eggs?
No, the officers were called to Luna Park Cafe in West Seattle around 4:40 a.m. after staff members watched the crime unfold on security cameras. Two men were seen breaking into the venue's outdoor refrigerated area. They went after several boxes containing roughly 540 eggs, bacon, ham, fruit, ground beef, and turkey. The loot bundled in the back of a white van is estimated
Yeah,
to be worth $387.
they weren't yoking around, were they?
Oh, boo!
I take it you're not all white with that joke.
Oh my god, it's getting worse. It comes as shoppers have seen.
If you're going to complain, Nomad, if you're going to complain, this is the last time I shell out your stream.
It comes as shoppers were seen. Have
He's going to tell me
seen.
to cluck off in a minute.
Eye-watering price hikes at industry giants, including Costco, Trader Joe's, due to the bird flu outbreak. It's scary. All right. Well, first of all, it wasn't the bird flu outbreak that caused it. It was they wiped out hundreds of thousands of egg laying chickens. Oh, the Biden administration did. It's going to
Yeah.
take a couple of years before production of eggs goes back up to normal.
Well, this is because Biden didn't want to eat anything more intelligent than he was.
Oh, Matt, you don't have to join in. All you're doing is encouraging him. Oh boy.
Yeah, you've got to admit, no man, those puns had you cracked up.
Stop me, please. All right, the U.S. is headed toward a hospital bed shortage. Researchers warn. Oh, really? Which researchers are these?
8 more beds.
The United States may face a shortage of hospital beds by 2032. A recent analysis in the Journal of American Medical Association, all right, Network Open warns. The study found that hospital admissions have remained 11 percentage points higher since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and that an aging population and dwindling number of hospital beds because of labor shortages and hospital closures could exacerbate this problem. Researchers used weekly hospital occupancy data collected by the Department of Health and Human Services between 2020 and 2024, when the agency required the reporting as part of the coronavirus tracking. The data offers an unprecedented insight into the hospital bed supply, the researchers write, and paints a picture of a potential future crisis. Well, let's stop right here. Okay, first of all, something seems to be a bit out of whack if the number of COVID beds being used, or excuse me, the number of beds being used, hospital beds, between COVID and now hasn't changed.
You think?
Just
Something fishy
putting,
going on here, MC.
just
No,
putting, just putting it out there. Now, I think it might be due to the fact that, okay, COVID's over, we're not getting paid for COVID. Well, we're just going to leave people in the hospital bed so we can bill them longer. Just putting it out there.
You never know.
Doesn't something sound fishy with that?
Only all of it. Oh, now this is a nice story.
Okay. Final two stories, folks. Final two stories. Entangled dog rescued from edge of the Florida River. The Sumter County Fire and Rescue and EMS and Animal Services team up for a successful river rescue. The dangerous situation on the Withlacoochee River? Withlacoochee? I cannot pronounce that. I'm not even trying.
I don't know.
Right?
I can't read Indian.
All right. River turned into a heartwarming reunion thanks to the teamwork of the Sumter County Animal Services and Sumter County Fire and EMS. Approximately at 9:30 a.m. on March 2nd, SCAS received multiple calls from concerned boaters in a Jump Creek Wildlife Management area. A dog later identified as Blackie, because after he got dipped in the water a few times, he was black. Right? Coming from the swamps of Florida. All right. Was spotted tangled in a tree.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. If he'd been an English dog, he possibly would have been called Chalky.
It was trapped by its collar and leash and unable to free itself from the water's edge. Notice how these people called up instead of going in there to help the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, he might bite us or something. He might have COVID.
Rescuers determined that they could not reach the dog, all right, later identified as Blackie, from the shore, so a plan was made to reach the canine by boat. The team carefully freed him from the entangled leash, secured him safely, and transported him back to the staging area. Blackie, who was miraculously unharmed despite being missing for about a week, was scanned for a microchip which allowed the rescuers to identify his owner and facilitate a happy reunion. Well, if the dog was loose in the Florida Everglades, the Florida swamps for a week, he is kind of lucky.
Yeah.
You got to admit, the dog is a bit lucky.
He's probably going to have to spend time at the vet because, I mean, let's face it, Everglades, he's going to have picked up parasites at the very least.
I would suspect that he probably would be having some, if nothing else, leeches and stuff that probably tore him up a bit. Bernice the duck apprehended after breaking into a Georgia jail.
Sentenced to life imprisonment.
Oh, goody. Okay. Sheriff's deputies in Georgia rushed into action when a jail break-in was perpetrated by a white female suspect, a duck. The Polk County Sheriff's Office said on social media that the white female was discovered inside the perimeter fence at the Polk County Jail at 7:43 a.m. The suspect, a duck,
this story's quacking me up.
attempted to go over the perimeter fence in an attempt to escape capture. Deputies ordered the duck to keep her from being, or cornered the duck to keep her from being injured by the razor wire on the perimeter fence. She could not tell us where she came from or how she got there, but we did notice she had an injured foot. We were able to call for backup, and after a lengthy standoff involving two agencies, it's a duck.
All right, we heard in the bushes.
All right,
they heard a sound in the bushes. You know.
All right, we were able to take her into custody. The duck, dubbed Bernice, was transported to a new home. My dinner plate. Derek Tilley's farm, the sheriff's office said.
Yeah, home of Southern Fried Duck.
It's Wabbit season. Oh God, no!
It's duck season. I say, shoot me now.
Oh, that is one of the funnier.
Let's go through that again.
Fire!
No.
That was the final story, folks. I appreciate y'all coming out. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, go away.
I appreciate
you
coming out there, Batman. Or should we ask me?
You're welcome.
And hope that everything's working out well. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and end the stream, and let's get on to the rest of the day. Talk to you all later. Bye bye.
Go away. Go on, shut off.